YouTube, this is Bernadette Miss B, and I am back on these YouTube streets. I took a little time off, much needed, but of course my stars, YouTube, Facebook newsfeed would not let me be great. So I have a celebrity couple that I want to talk about because they were giving us so much marital advice on their podcast. So with that being said, I think it's time for us to talk about that advice and see what can we learn. I think I'm going to have to split this small snippet of their podcast up into 2 videos because it was just so chock full of information. So again, this is Bernadette Miss B here on my YouTube channel, Free Spirit 30338. And I have a celeb couple, T.I. and Tiny, that we are putting in the spotlight. So, listening to their podcast, and I did not include this podcast clip. There are multiple videos that have the podcast clip. However, I will read some of the clip and sentiment from this particular segment so that we can nibble on this little scrumptious advice piece from T.I. himself and Tiny. So let's get started. Okay, so T.I. mentioned in a recent podcast how much he appreciates Tiny. And he appreciates Tiny for being so tolerant. Not very patient though, but tolerant. T.I. also said a lot of women want a man to come to them already ready and fixed. And women needed to give men time to work the rust off. Okay. Some of his thoughts, some of his sentiments I did agree with. Strangely, I know. But I agreed with what he said about women needing to give men time to work the rust off. I agree with that sentiment, but what I will add to that is that while we are allowing a man to work the rust off, why is it that we think that we should allow this man to have optimal access to us? During this period of time where this guy is working the rust off, why are we allowing ourselves to be in his life? I feel like so many women are allowing too many men that are working through the process of maturing, growing, learning, expanding. I feel like too many women are allowing the guy to have optimal access to them. And in my opinion, it is to their detriment. Now, it's hard for me to listen to, of course, all of the podcasts. I'm just kind of highlighting some things in this particular video that stood out to me because T.I. is the poster child for giving women advice to be the ride or die chick and giving women the idea and passing the philosophy on that no matter what, you should stay with your guy, as evidenced by what we've seen play out in social media and even in news clippings with some of the things that have happened, and they've had the police called and so on and so forth. So clearly he's the type that thinks that anything pretty much goes. So T.I. praised his wife for being tolerant. And in my head, what I heard was tolerant while I publicly humiliate you, belittle you, abuse you in every way possible, and play all kinds of games with you. That is what I heard in my head when he praised her for being so tolerant but not patient. So let me address the next thing in his statement and add my thoughts to that as well. I want to go back to what he said about women wanting a man to already be ready. Ding, ding, ding. All women should want their man to be already ready. That in 2019 needs to be the sentiment and the ideology, in my opinion, that him and everyone else with these huge platforms should be passing. Instead of passing this ride or die, ride with your man until he rides off into a ditch philosophy, that needs to be tossed. What should be passed on these huge platforms is, ladies, why don't you start to expect your man to be ready when he comes to you? You should, in my opinion, support him from afar. That's my thoughts. That's my opinion. That's based on my wisdom, because needless to say, the dynamics have tremendously changed. The relationship landscape has changed. So much so that women, in my opinion, should desire more for themselves. So in saying that, in my opinion, you end up putting yourself in a position as a woman to always have to be the woman to blow this man up like a blow up doll. You always have to plug him in and charge him up. And if he's already full with inspiration, positivity, humility, maturity, masculinity, he wants to provide and protect, then charging him up, so to speak, it's not as great or as huge of a job. But when you are trying to charge up someone that their mental battery life is in the negative, sis, you're killing yourself. And most of the time it gets to the point it becomes so one-sided because this man has now placed you into a position like T.I. has, where secretly he's resenting you. He's not as respectful of you. He's playing mind games. And of course, let's also place an asterisk here as I'm giving out these descriptors to say I do realize that T.I. is a huge narcissist. So just wanted to put that in there also. So to wrap up my sentiment on that part of his statement, I just want to say that men and women need to do the self-work to prepare and get ready for what it is that they desire. If you know that you want a healthy relationship, do the self-work of healing from past hurts, healing from past pains, getting your finances in order, building a career, starting a business, living your dreams. That way you are operating at a level that will attract someone that is doing the same thing. But in my opinion, I almost feel like too many women are grabbing men off of the shelves before they are ready to commit to that type of relationship for whatever reason. And as I always say, it is to our detriment. So let me address something that Tiny expressed and give you my thoughts on that. Tiny expressed her thoughts about influence and how women should influence a man to do great things. I do agree with that wholeheartedly. I understand what Tiny meant when she said this. However, I feel like part of her delivery was not the best, because I feel like she was giving us this delivery about influence and it was from a masculine energy place. Why am I saying that? Because she made the reference to making him. Ding, ding, ding. I don't know about you, but I do not know many men that are going to receive a woman that is trying to make him do anything. That's just not going to go over well. So instead of positioning yourself to where you constantly have to make him do things that he honestly is not ready to do for whatever reason, I just want to say that that entire thought process, that needs to be trashed. That is my opinion. So I think that a part of our roles as women is to influence men, but we have a greater impact and it is received better when you are a feminine woman that is influencing him from a feminine energy space, and you don't have this mindset of chase, chase, chase. I'm going to make him do this. He better do that. I'm going to give him an ultimatum. You had better do this. You're not in that space. You're in a feminine space in which the things that you say is going to come from a place of feeling and how you feel about a situation instead of a place of action and making and dragging and so on and so forth. So those are my sentiments from just a few of the statements from T.I. and Tiny's most recent podcast. At the time of my video, it may have been a week ago that they posted this podcast. I'm going to do a part 2 because for the sake of this video, am going to listen to a little bit more of the podcast, and I'm going to bring yet more statements so that we can break them down, so that we can learn from what they are saying and literally chew the meat and spit out the bones. So I hope that you have enjoyed this video. I've got much, much more to say about relationships, star drama, etc. And as you know, I know, just as you know, that when it comes to the stars and how their lives play out on social media, I know that a lot of it is role playing, some of it is untrue, so on and so forth. But we here on my channel, we deal with what we see in social media. So I look forward to speaking with you again soon. Thank you for your time and take care. Bye.